Minnesota is one of the states that has its own estate tax. There is a federal estate tax. That is a tax on assets that are owned after death. And then there's an exemption. So you get a certain dollar amount where they don't count it and you don't have to even worry about it. Minnesota has the same thing, except the exemption is much lower typically than the federal level. So our clients are more likely to pay Minnesota estate tax than they are federal estate tax. Estate tax is sometimes called a death tax or inheritance tax, but the point is assets held after death are subject to this tax with the exception of having this exemption amount. There are a number of ways to avoid Minnesota estate tax. Most of our clients don't have an issue with Minnesota estate tax because of these exemptions, but for those that do, what we can do is in an estate plan, we're going to shift money around, typically between spouses and then sometimes to trusts. And what these trusts do is they're able to hold money outside of the estate. So when somebody passes away, this money is not counted in the estate, and therefore it's not counted towards the exemption, and therefore it can pass estate tax free. There's a number of ways that can happen, but most estate tax avoidance or estate tax mitigation strategies are going to use some combination of trust planning. A much easier way to do that oftentimes is lifetime gifting to kids. If folks have enough money to sustain them in retirement, if they feel that the amount of money they have is going to cause a tax issue at death, we can sometimes come up with gifting strategies, if they trust their kids now, to begin getting money out of their estate and to that next generation sooner than later. Minnesota's estate tax for Minnesota residents includes all assets. So if somebody has real estate, cabins, IRAs, life insurance, even the proceeds of life insurance. I have a term life insurance policy. It's not worth anything during life, but if I die, it pays out this money. That is also counted towards my money for estate tax purposes. So really, anything you own is going to be subject to Minnesota estate tax if you're a Minnesota resident. If you live outside of Minnesota, and you're able to establish residency outside of Minnesota, that is a harder process than people sometimes understand, then we only count the assets that are in Minnesota. So just as a hypothetical, if I move to Florida or somewhere and I have $10 million and I have a $300,000 cabin in Minnesota, that cabin is the only thing we count towards Minnesota estate taxes. We have been working with families to mitigate and avoid estate tax since the firm started, and that was in 2013, 2014. The exemptions were much lower. They were $1 million at that time, and we had a lot more families subject to this than we do today. The exemptions change every time. It's very difficult at any time to say who's gonna fall into this. It all depends on when we're working with the client. We try to create plans that are able to adapt to these changes so they don't have to keep coming back to us. As far as the number of plans that we've done that have had some level of estate tax mitigation, certainly in the thousands. Our clients hire our firm to represent them in their estate plan for a number of reasons. I think one of them is, honestly, we've had a lot of people say really good things about us. I believe we do very, very good work, and I believe people have made that known to their friends and family. So that's always the biggest compliment we can get, is when someone sends a family member of theirs to work with us as well. Financial professionals trust us, so we get a lot of financial advisors and accountants who send their clients our way to talk about their estate plan, their will, their trust, whatever it might be. More importantly, I think when someone comes to us without being a referral, they just research us online, I think from the minute they call us to the minute they get their kind of overview phone call with one of our staff, to the point where they're actually meeting with their attorney and spending some time talking about the things that are very important to them, their family, their loved ones, the things that they've been working for. I believe there's a level of comfort there, and I believe we really know how to talk to people in a way that isn't lawyerly. I think it's a friendly conversation, and we get a lot done in a very efficient way by working with people where they are. Client communication is one of our values as a firm. The policy within the firm is 8 business hours, but we're much faster than that. We usually try to get back to folks within an hour during weekdays, business hours. But more importantly than that, during the process, we are going to map out with the client when they will hear from their attorney. We are going to map out when there'll be a review call, when they're going to get documents. They're going to know what's going to happen at each step of the process. We are a small law firm. We're right on the corner of Minneapolis and Richfield. We're not downtown. And we have found our advantage to be we can create a process that is very custom to each individual rather than having to push that client through the large law firm with all of its many departments. We are able to create something that is very much focused on that family. Estate tax avoidance is going to be part of any estate plan we do. We're at least going to get involved and see if it's even needed. If it is needed, it'll be part of a will plan or part of a revocable trust plan. Those are the 2 tools we're more likely to use or most likely to use when it comes to creating an estate plan. Folks will call our number. They'll send us an email over the website, and they'll be connected with our client services director. She's absolutely fantastic. She'll walk through a couple cost options and give an idea of the process. What'll happen from there, if it looks like it's a fit, she'll get that potential client on the calendar with an attorney in our office, and they are going to have a very, very productive hour to an hour and a half meeting, depending on what the client's concerns are, depending what issues are there. Sometimes estate tax issues get a little more involved and the meeting might be a little longer, but overall it is going to be a very productive meeting. We're going to get the whole thing drawn out, show you some examples of what we can do to try to mitigate this issue, and show you what's involved. The potential client, they're always going to know when they'll hear from their lawyer. They're always going to know what's next, and we really work as a team to get them moving through the process.